They believed the war had ended, the enemy defeated, but when one human appeared, everything changed. In the silence after the battle, humanity's true strength was about to be revealed. The galaxy had never known a war like this, one that stretched across light years, spanning decades, consuming entire star systems in relentless combat. At the heart of this conflict were two forces locked in a deadly dance: humanity, fierce and stubborn, and the alien coalition, vast and merciless. To the galaxy's billions of inhabitants, the war seemed endless, a storm that refused to break. For years, the alien coalition had the upper hand. Their fleets darkened the skies above countless worlds, their machines crushed human defenses with brutal efficiency, and their diplomats spoke in tones of inevitable domination. And so, when the coalition's leaders finally declared victory, the galaxy believed them. Broadcasts echoed through space, announcing the fall of the last human strongholds. Flags of surrender were raised on once proud colonies. The war was over. Humanity was broken. Yet, in the quiet void between the stars, in the shadows cast by the wreckage of warships and ruined cities, one man survived. Elias Varin, a commander once celebrated as a hero, had vanished months ago. The coalition spies reported his death in the early battles, a casualty of the fierce fighting on the planet Cygnus Prime. But Elias had not died. He had simply disappeared. For Elias, survival was just the beginning. He had watched humanity's armies crumble, seen entire fleets annihilated, and endured the loss of friends and family. But in the deepest despair, he found a new purpose, not just to survive, but to fight back. Alone at first, then slowly, he began to weave a web of resistance, gathering survivors, smugglers, defectors, and aliens disillusioned with the coalition's brutality. It was a ragtag force, small and scattered, but fierce in its hatred of oppression. The story of Elias's return began on the distant asteroid colony of Aegis 9, a forgotten outpost where refugees and rebels eked out a fragile existence. The colony was a relic of humanity's golden age, a beacon once shining brightly, now reduced to a skeleton haunted by memories. Here, Elias reappeared, not as a warrior clad in armor, but as a leader cloaked in resolve. His voice was low but commanding, his eyes burned with the fire of unyielding hope. He gathered the remnants of humanity's scattered forces and delivered a message they had all but given up on: the war was not over. Victory is a lie, he told them. They want us to believe we are finished, broken beyond repair. But we are not. We are the last line of defense, the last spark before darkness. And we will fight until that spark becomes a blaze. His words ignited a flame in the hearts of the weary survivors. Small resistance cells across the galaxy began to coordinate. Elias's network was a web of secrecy and precision. Using stolen technology and captured ships, they struck at the coalition's supply lines and communication hubs. They sabotaged factories producing war machines, disrupted transport convoys, and hacked command networks. The coalition's celebration was short-lived. Within weeks, their fleets were plagued by mysterious failures and ambushes. Supplies disappeared, reinforcements never arrived, and trust between commanders eroded. Panic rippled through their ranks. Elias himself led some of the deadliest operations. In one daring raid on the mining colony of Talos 4, his team infiltrated a heavily fortified base, destroying critical fuel reserves that powered a key war fleet. The explosion shook the asteroid's surface and sent shockwaves across the system, forcing the coalition to divert forces and delaying their operations. But Elias's fight was more than tactical. He was a symbol of resistance, an icon who inspired those crushed under the weight of defeat. His story spread in whispered transmissions and encoded messages, a myth turned reality. Yet Elias knew the cost. Every mission bled his people dry. Every victory was paid for in lives and suffering. The galaxy was full of orphans, widows, and broken dreams. The war's scars were deeper than any battlefield wound. One night, under the dim glow of a dying star, Elias stood on the observation deck of his flagship, the Defiant. His thoughts were heavy with memories. The faces of fallen comrades flashed before him: young pilots who gave their last breath in fiery dogfights, medics who saved lives even as their own slipped away, civilians caught in the crossfire. But also there was hope. The resistance was growing. Allies among alien species who had suffered under the coalition's rule were joining their cause. Together, they planned to reclaim what was lost, to take back their homes and their future. The war was far from over. The galaxy had not yet witnessed the full measure of humanity's resolve. As the first rays of a distant sun pierced the darkness, Elias made a silent vow. He would fight, not just for survival, but for a dawn where humanity could stand free among the stars. He would not rest until the coalition's grip was broken, until peace was forged from the ashes of war. And when the galaxy least expected it, the human rebellion would strike, not as a desperate last stand, but as the beginning of a new era. Because as long as Elias Varon lived, the fight was far from finished. The war might have been declared over by others, but for humanity, the true battle had just begun. Galaxies had trembled under the weight of war, but nowhere was the battle fiercer or more desperate than in the outer rims where humanity had been pushed to the brink. Elias Varon's name had become a whispered legend, an echo of hope for some, a nightmare for others. The Coalition, a ruthless alliance of alien empires, had believed the war was over. They thought humanity was crushed, scattered, and broken beyond repair. They had declared victory. But they had gravely underestimated the will of one human, and the fire he ignited in others. The Defiant and its ragtag fleet of human survivors had grown into something unrecognizable from the scattered remnants it once was. War forged strange alliances. Elias's ability to inspire loyalty and courage had drawn in allies from unexpected corners. Refugees, mercenaries, and even former enemies saw the truth in his vision. Humanity would not bow, and they would fight until their last breath. But this war was not just fought in space. It was fought in the hearts of those who remembered Earth as it was, a blue jewel spinning in the vast cosmic void, and those who wished to reclaim it. For Elias, every victory was tinged with grief. Each loss cut deeper than any wound. He carried the weight of billions of lost lives, the faces of friends, family, and innocents who had perished under the Coalition's ruthless campaigns. They were the reason he fought, the reason he refused to surrender. The Coalition's arrogance had blinded them to the true nature of humanity. They saw humans as weak, chaotic, and primitive, easy to subjugate. But what they didn't grasp was that humans thrived under pressure. They adapted. They found strength in their scars and forged bonds from shared suffering. Elias knew that to defeat the Coalition, he had to unite not just humans but all those oppressed by their tyranny. One of the turning points came during the siege of Relara Prime, a planet strategically vital to Coalition supply lines. The Coalition had fortified it with vast fleets, automated defenses, and thousands of soldiers. Conventional wisdom told the resistance to avoid direct confrontation. But Elias's mind raced with possibilities. He understood that the Coalition's strength was also their weakness, complacency born from overconfidence. Using intelligence gathered by Zalari telepaths and Arkan technology, Elias orchestrated a multi-front assault. Human pilots executed daring raids to distract the fleet, while ground forces infiltrated the planetary defenses through hidden caverns long forgotten by the Coalition. The battle was brutal, a cacophony of explosions, laser fire, and desperate cries. Elias himself led a strike team to disable the orbital shields, an act of bravery that became the stuff of legends. With the shields down, Allied forces bombarded the Coalition fleet, forcing them into retreat. The victory was a beacon, proof that the rebellion could strike where it hurt the enemy most. But it came at a price. Relara's surface was scarred beyond recognition, and Elias lost some of his closest comrades in the fighting. Meanwhile, the Coalition responded with terrifying new weapons. Bioengineered monstrosities that spread like wildfire, consuming everything in their path. Psychological warfare that shattered minds, sowed distrust, and eroded hope. Entire colonies fell under this new onslaught. Elias watched as the faces of his people twisted in fear and pain, yet he refused to let despair take hold. In the darkest moments, Elias found unexpected solace in the bonds forged with his alien allies. The Zalari warriors, who could probe minds and share emotions, taught him the power of empathy beyond words. The Arkan, beings of living metal and circuits, showed him the resilience of unity. Together, they formed a coalition not of dominance, but of survival and shared dreams. Elias's personal journey was marked by sacrifice and determination. The loss of his home planet, the endless battles, and the heavy burden of leadership could have broken a lesser man. But Elias carried the weight with quiet dignity. He knew the war was bigger than himself. It was for the future of humanity and all those yearning for freedom. As the resistance grew stronger, Elias received disturbing reports. The Coalition was building a weapon of unimaginable power, a superweapon capable of erasing entire star systems in moments. The rumors were terrifying, but Elias refused to yield to fear. He gathered his closest advisors and forged a plan that was as risky as it was desperate. The Defiant led a covert strike force deep into Coalition territory. Navigating through uncharted asteroid fields and ancient space wrecks, they approached the superweapon's location, an enormous space station orbiting a dead star. The station was a fortress, protected by layers of energy shields and thousands of defense drones. The battle to infiltrate the station was fierce. Elias's team faced relentless attacks, losing many brave souls along the way. Every step forward was earned with blood and grit. But the human spirit shone brightest in the face of adversity. Using the lessons learned from countless battles, Elias coordinated simultaneous assaults that overwhelmed the station's defenses. Inside the labyrinthine corridors, Elias confronted the Coalition's warlord, an alien being of immense power and cruelty. Their fight was not just physical but ideological. Elias fought with the strength of every human lost to the war, channeling their hopes and rage into every strike. The warlord, confident and cold, underestimated the fire burning within Elias. With a final surge, Elias struck down the warlord, triggering a chain reaction in the station's core. The superweapon erupted in a catastrophic explosion, lighting up the void like a second sun's death throes. The blast obliterated the station and sent shockwaves through the Coalition's forces. Emerging from the wreckage, Elias and his remaining team were battered but victorious. The destruction of the superweapon marked a turning point in the war. The Coalition's hold on the galaxy weakened, and whispers of rebellion grew louder among oppressed worlds. But Elias knew that victory was fragile. The scars of war ran deep, and peace was not yet assured. The fight for freedom would continue, and the road ahead was uncertain. Still, humanity had shown that even in the darkest night, a single light could shine bright enough to lead the way. As the Defiant soared through the stars, Elias sent a message across the galaxy. Not just to humans, but to all who longed for liberation. We are not broken. We are not defeated. Together, we will rise from the ashes and reclaim our future. This is not the end, it is the beginning. The war had been long and brutal, but the arrival of the human had changed everything. Elias Varen was no longer just a survivor. He was the spark of a revolution that would echo through the cosmos for generations to come.